the ability that we have to study and learn and understand is not to be relegated only to all areas of human endeavor except for the Torah. The Torah is, if anything, it should be the other way around. We have to be intellectually honest and inquisitive and search for the truth when it comes to the Torah, perhaps more than anything else. So if you can prove that a certain position of a certain Chacham, doesn't matter who, is incorrect, and you know that something else is more correct, why shouldn't you be able to say so? That's the position, that's the methodology, that's the approach that I'm suggesting. And what you said before about studying the sources with all the Rishonim and understanding each position and how they arrive at that position and comparing that to this Talmud and that source, and Rambam and Rashi, well, that's exactly what all the Chachamim have been doing for centuries, from time immemorial. What else are we talking about? Of course, that's what you have to do.
I mean,
what's the time, by the way?
11.
Would you like to suggest a time limit, or we're just open-ended? People probably have to get going, I imagine. So, if there's, maybe we'll take one more question, then those who need to go, I'm sure that people have to do things tomorrow, have to leave. They'll be able to leave, and if others that want to stay can stay a bit longer. One more question.
It's sort of like a compound statement. First, I'd like to thank you. I find this to be very insightful. What is your opinion regarding God using nature, time, and man as instruments towards a goal? So how do I put that into context? You spend a great deal of time pointing out how through history and politics and historical scenarios, basically the Talmud Vivaldi became the most prominent source, authoritative. So I can deduce from there that the logic would be, as you've mentioned, for us to be more learned with Talmud Yerushalmi, and for the common goal or common purpose, which would be to create a new nusach, or not new nusach, but a unifying nusach. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the way I've seen pretty much history, I'm a historical fan, historical buff myself. I see that God uses nature, history, time, events, people. And so what would be your answer to, what if God used these historical facts, or figures, or political circumstances to push forward the Talmud Vivaldi? And that, in essence, is the reason why we have it today, and therefore most of the halachot are structured in the way we have them, to possibly later, in the time of Mashiach, to return us to Talmud Yerushalmi. I mean, who's to say that that wasn't the purpose? I mean, if you look at, for instance, in the incident of Korach and Moshe, there's one school of thought which says that Korach is such a high level that his Torah is of not a worldly, not to be understood in the world, but perhaps in Olam Haba or after Mashiach. So that would be like one question. The other question would be...
Let me
yes.
first try and deal with that briefly. If I understand your point correctly, you're asking a question that I've been asked on other occasions, which goes like this. Didn't Hashem organize all those historical events and developments that you described, which led to that result of Talmud Bavli achieving that position on a pedestal? And if therefore Hashem was behind it, how can you come along and suggest that it be changed? Is that approximately what you're driving at?
Short and to the point.
Okay. The answer is very simple. At every point in Jewish history, there are issues and there are needs. The Jewish people, one of the most obvious needs the Jewish people has is to have some central Torah authority to which they can turn, so they can receive guidance on matters pertaining to the Torah. And Hashem organizes history in such a way that when the natural and organic source for that, the origin of Torah, from which Torah should spring for the entire Jewish world, runs into a problem, as happened in Eretz Yisrael at a certain point in history, a solution, a substitute will be found. And that substitute is there to do what is necessary and provide what has to be provided, at least the bare minimum the Jewish people require in order to survive as a Jewish nation. That other modality kicks in and takes over, and that's the right answer for that time. But it doesn't mean that we can't claim to know that Hashem meant that this be the right answer or the right system for all time. That was the system for that time, and it's served in a certain set of realities. It served well, and now we're in a different situation, and it no longer serves us well.
There's also the notion that, as you mentioned before, once everyone has their own Hagim, there's this school of thought that once you have the Yom Hag, you follow Yom Hag as if it is halacha.
Mm-hmm.
So, throughout human history, throughout Jewish history, we've noticed that very miraculous type of godly interventions, and one of them is referring to, for instance, the changing of the languages in Babel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty miraculous, mind-blowing type of even concept. So the way I've always understood it is, let's say, like during the coming of Mashiach, we're all expecting or waiting for some sort of miraculous, out of or uncommon or unexpected or something beyond, to give us some sort of signal that something's ready, that something's happening, that we're ready for something, or that at that point we should unify.
When you see before you a reality which hasn't existed for 2,500 years, a reality which has taken us a point in history where we are today, that has taken us 100 years of effort to achieve, to get to where we are now, in terms of the beginnings of the Zionist movement, or even before that, maybe what you could even say 150 years or something, until there were people thinking in terms of returning to Eretz Yisrael and doing something different there. When you see these facts on the ground, and you think about how amazing, how remarkable it is that Jewish history has turned around in such a way, and things have led to this point,